Hello, everybody. So, welcome to the 40th book club discussion. And today we are discussing The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese. So, I'll start sharing the screen. Okay, so let's begin. So, today, let's see a little bit about the author and then about the book. And he has a very interesting career as a physician. And some themes from the book, a few questions for you here and there, and some quotes. And the book is really filled with quotes. So, though I have included quite a few, but I think I've just not done justice to them all. So, you can feel free to add your own quotes, whichever you would like to discuss too. So the author, Abraham Verghese, is an American physician and he's an American author too. So the President Barack Obama presented him with the National Humanities Medal in 2015. He has received 6 honorary doctorate degrees. He was born in Ethiopia to Orthodox Christian parents from Kerala, India. And his parents had actually worked as teachers over there. As a child, he was an avid reader, and it was reading which introduced him to the world of medicine. Abraham Verghese went on, he came to India to complete his medical studies at Madras Medical College, and he was awarded a Bachelor of Medicine from Madras University in 1979. And he also ended up finishing an internship there. Afterwards, he returned to USA seeking an open residency position, and he took up his open residency at Johnson City, Tennessee. After completing his residency in 83, he also took up a fellowship in Boston University School of Medicine. He worked for 2 years in Boston City Hospital, where he encountered the early signs of the urban HIV epidemic, which was slowly gaining prominence over there. So after this, he returned to Johnson City in 85, and this is when the second epidemic of HIV began. And he was in charge of the specific ward relating to HIV at Johnson City. He thought he would have about 1 or 2 HIV patients a year, but he soon had about 100 in such a small town. And at that time, he had absolutely no ambition of becoming a writer or anything of that sort. So he decided, but that this particular incident in his life wanted him to tell the story of this tragedy. So he took a break from medicine to study writing. And for that, he joined the Iowa Writers Workshop at the University of Iowa. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this, but most writers around the world would know about this. This is a very ambitious and a very highly coveted position, this particular Iowa Writers Workshop. And it's awarded to a few writers from around the world every time they hold it. So he joined that, and that is where his writing career started. In fact, afterwards he moved to the University of Iowa, and he also finished a bachelor in fine arts. I think a bachelor or a master's in fine arts, not very sure. And he's till now he's written 4 best-selling books, 2 memoirs, and 2 novels. Even he's also very active in his career as a physician. At Stanford University, he continues to explore the importance of patient-centered bedside medicine and the physical exam. So both of these are techniques which have now kind of, lost the kind of importance which they earlier used to have in medicine. Now, with new technology, not many doctors spend time with the patient trying to understand exactly what they are going through, what kind of symptoms do they show. And a physical examination is something which is slowly getting, slowly getting lost in the medicine profession, and it's getting replaced by all these scans and x-rays and other techniques. So he wants to bring back those older techniques, and he has been insisting on the importance of a physician's presence at the bedside. And for this, he created the Stanford 25, which is an initiative which has been developed to showcase and teach 25 fundamental physical examination skills and their diagnostic benefits to interns. So, in a 2023 interview, Verghese commented on how his writing skills have helped him to pay more attention to patient stories and also to ask more questions, which could lead to a better diagnosis. So he has a very active career as both as a physician and as a writer, and he has, I think beautifully he has explored his career as a physician and Covenant of Water, and he also says his writing helps him to be a better doctor. So I think that's quite a wonderful achievement. Now coming to the book, The Covenant of Water, it said that it took him about 10 years to write this book. And it was published in May 2023 by Grove Atlantic, and it was chosen for the Opera's book club. So this book was inspired the life story of Verghese's mother, to whom the book is dedicated. The story is set between 1900 and 1970s in Kerala. It follows 3 generations of a family in which one or more people in each generation has mysteriously died from drowning. So the book has actually continuously stayed on the New York Times bestseller list for 37 weeks. And it was also listed by the newspaper as one of its 100 notable books of 2023. In January 2024, Oprah announced that she had optioned the film rights of the book too. Though I think it's going to be quite a challenge to make this as a movie. So this time I thought, for a change, let me ask a few questions and we could discuss some parts of the book along with my presentation instead of forcing you to keep listening to me always. So the book starts with an arranged child marriage, and the child is taught the ways of the house. Later, the ways of the house is taught to her by Tangama. And then Tangama leaves and she doesn't take Jojo with her. Instead, she leaves him to be cared for by a new 12-year-old bride. Though she manages the house and the child expertly, did any of you feel a pang for both the children? Also, the book has been criticized for the fact that it kind of romanticizes child marriage. Did you feel that? Let me just stop the screen share and you can, share your views about this.
So once we go,
Mm-hmm.
we find actually the Jojo of equal age. So what I felt was, they almost not like mother and a child, but two friends. So that is a she managed the situation. And I also did not feel actually she's out of place or placed in a unfavorable situation. Because she got someone who is or who is equivalent to her age, almost like a friend. They can play together, spend time together. And there was never a difference between these two. So that's I didn't feel any pang. But
Mm.
giving away the child in a child marriage,
Yeah, sorry, please continue.
no issue. Giving away the child to a 40-year-old man, I felt.
Yeah.
Because by that actually you are, the child's life is doomed.
Mm-hmm.
In any other case, actually, we cannot what I can advise a child marriage because it naturally ends up in as a widow. Many we have seen there was child marriages are bad. There was social revolutions, hormone वगैरह वगैरह. So I did not endorse the child marriage, but as far as the her stay in the house along with Jojo is concerned, I did not feel it was that uncomfortable to
Mm-hmm.
the with the big Amati who is going to become. That is what I felt. And as far as the husband is concerned, he was always aloof. He was never involved. I don't think there was much of an influence of her husband over the small bride. That is my feeling now.
Meenal, did you get dropped off, Meenal?
She's there.
Maybe she's having an issue with the video or audio. I'm not
Her
sure.
voice,
Yeah.
speaker is off.
Meenal? Okay. No problem. Let's keep continuing. So actually, for me personally, when I read
Ah,
the
yes.
initial thing about the child marriage, I
Ah,
kind of it. I was very scared. I thought something bad is going to happen to her, and this was very sweet and a very cute character who's already gone through a lot in her childhood. So when
yes.
I just read that she's married to a 40-year-old, I was very upset about it, and I was like, oh my God, something bad is going to happen to her. But
Hmm.
thankfully, I think it went in a very sweet and beautiful way and it kind of finished.
In a
So,
way, her husband was also very understanding. That way at the
yeah.
end of.
Mm-mm.
He never pushes her to any wrong side or creates any problem to her. So that is one
Yeah.
positive thing. So overall,
So
it is
then
positive.
later, yeah. So then later I felt, okay, this was the society then, which is just being portrayed. So
Ah,
it's
yes.
okay. It wasn't something negative which was being shown. So it was
Ah,
okay.
ah.
Meenal, we were just discussing about the child marriage and whether, the author has romanticized it or what did you feel about it? Do you want to share anything?
No, I thought that it was very much a part of the Kerala society and that system in those days. So I didn't find it anything unnatural there. Of course, I was quite taken aback with that huge age difference. But
Mm.
then later, as she grows and she becomes mature, I found that they were compatible and made a good pair actually. So that really didn't come as a surprise.
Yeah. Um, Hi, Zenith. You've joined us today. Okay, so let me just Yeah.
I'm actually not well, so I have a cold. So I just came to listen because I couldn't read the book much. I loved
Okay.
the what all that I read about the book because my grandparents are from Kerala, and I know that my grandmother was married pretty early when probably she was a teenager. So all I'm just here to listen because the story intrigued me, but I've not been able to read because I'm not well. But I will
Okay.
definitely pick up this book.
Sure, sure. Please take care and get well soon. And definitely you should read it. I'm very sure you will love it. Okay, so I'll continue with the presentation. Okay. So, yeah, so this was the question we just saw. So I just thought we'll see some of the themes in the book. What are some of the, concepts which he kind of explores, and most of them are explored across generations, in fact. So the first one is the caste system, and he's given a very, I think, he's portrayed it like as if it's almost like a natural law. He's not even tried to push it into us, or he shows how naturally and how as a part of living it's just entwined in the lives of the people over there. Also, it's very beautifully he had kind of shown of how there are some obligations of landowners to those who are considered lower in the caste system, but who seem to be toiling on the land always. And we see how Biga Pachin, actually the husband of Biga Machi, in fact, he supports Shamuel, and he gives him some amount of land. He also gives some amount of land to Jopan, his son. And later on, we also see how Philippos, in fact, invites Jopan to take care of the land itself. Initially, he refuses, and later on, he does agree to it. And also beautifully shown is the forced segregation. So Philippos and Jopan are best friends, but at the same time, he cannot attend his own friend's wedding. So, and there are so many such beautiful scenes which are interspersed, I think, all through the book. And another theme which is explored is colonization and oppression. He shows some of the complexities of colonization, especially through the eyes of Digby and Am I pronouncing it correctly? I'm not sure. And yeah,
Okay, please.
okay. And also Celeste also. So both of them feel that, some places they do feel that um, they are not welcome, and they are the oppressors in a particular society. They do realize that. And especially in the case of in case of Digby, he actually plays a very dual role. They show him as the oppressed person in one society, and he now turns into an oppressor once he enters India. And so all this I thought is very well explored and well written out. These complexities are brought out so beautifully in by Verghese in the book. So one of the things, the next question which I wanted to ask you all was, when Digby moves from England to India, he goes from being part of the lower class, and he's discriminated for his appearance, for his accent, and now he becomes part of the upper class. He's respected for his nationality, his skin color. He has servants who are running behind him. But which class do you think Digby enjoys belonging to more? And it's very evident, I think, in the story also. And how might you be able to see that from the perspective of a different class? Um, let me stop the screen share. So, yeah, please feel free to share. Did you feel, so beautifully? I thought the author had brought out that disparity in how he is treated in Britain and how he is treated in India.
Madam, you please keep that slide, madam, where you asked that
Okay,
question.
I'll do that.
That
I'll
will be
keep the
better.
slide. Yeah, and then you can just talk over it itself
Yes,
then.
after that we can switch over to the next one or
Okay,
continue with our presentation.
sure. That's great. Do that. Okay, this was the slide.
I personally felt that Digby was very uncomfortable, and he almost had a sense of guilt when he was looked upon when he came to India, because there he was treated in a very patronizing and condescending manner, had that sense of inferiority. And suddenly here, because by virtue of the color of his skin, he's treated with so much respect. And he's not even such an expert in the medical profession, but people here have so much faith in him, and they think that he's a miracle worker. You know, that lady with the thyroid goiter who has to have surgery. She insists that only Digby should perform the surgery and all that. So that makes him really uncomfortable, because deep in his heart he knows it's only because he's part of the colonizer that he is being accorded such a lot of respect, which he feels that he doesn't really deserve. That's the impression I got, that he has a little bit of guilt right through, having that sense of superiority here in India.
And also, the whole purpose of him coming itself is because he wants to learn surgery better. And it's funny how, he feels he's not an expert in it, but the patient, in fact, insists that she will get it done only by him.
By him,
Yeah. I think, yeah.
He's almost jobless there, and he's sort of forced to come here and take up a job without even realizing that what destiny has in store for him here, and his life takes a complete turnaround.
But I felt in one of the things was that he had also brought that class difference in Britain to the hospital here also. So the doctor who was actually not good was considered as a senior, and only he can operate on the British patients, right? So
I
Digby
said that about his boss at the hospital. I forget his name. Charles.
Claude, I think. Claude.
Claude. He was very supercilious, and he acted very superior, though he was not very knowledgeable, but he was very bossy and dominating.
Yeah. But I think that was because of his class, right? I think he belongs to an upper class, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So I think, that was also very interesting to see how, even here they have not really stopped doing that. Yeah. Okay.
Then
Yes, Shaman.
Digby, actually, he is
Hmm.
from Glasgow, born physician.
Glasgow, Scotland, actually,
He
not
is,
Britain.
exactly, he is
Yeah, yeah.
a Catholic,
Hmm.
and he happens to be the lonely son of that impoverished alcoholic mother.
Hmm.
That is his
Yes.
background.
Hmm.
And he is Scotland, if you
And
remember.
he's
That
an illegitimate child, no? He's born in
Yeah.
wedlock. Yeah.
he is Scotland for colonized India.
Hmm.
And as you have just said, only to discover that he is oppressed in Glasgow, whereas he is oppressor here.
Hmm.
The book says this thought depresses him. What to
Hmm.
make of when he himself says that the thought that he oppressed in Glasgow and is an oppressor in the colony, that is India, thought depresses him. Don't you think that reflects his positive side?
Hmm.
Number one. Number two, also immediately when he joins in the hospital itself, there are two different wards. One for locals, that is ours, and the another for whites.
Hmm.
Superintendent to take care of that white, where
Hmm.
there are only few patients or few who require surgery and other things. And he is put in charge of the local ward. And if you recollect, actually, he does a better job
Yeah.
on as far as his superior is concerned. In other words, professionally he is okay. He flew, that is a different thing. But once he comes to India, actually, he proves a better doctor than his superintendent, that is his superior. So I
Yes.
consider him, and as a person also, subsequently, he is a man of depth. That is what I felt.
Yeah.
Because that leprosarium, he takes over after the other man, actually. The Rune Orquist. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing correctly or not. Look
Hmm.
at both the side, actually. Though he felt that he is a white, actually, he didn't mess up his job. He did a better job as a surgeon.
Hmm.
And he tried to get into his supervisor's, what I call, family affairs and other things. In professional, I found him okay. And at the end, that is more important. What I feel is actually that is a wonderful paragraph also. When actually Mariam goes from that window, he goes and says, "She is your mother." That is for 15 years actually, for the sake of love, he remains in that leprosarium for that girl. I find he is a man of depth. If you put on one side actually the big Amachi, on this side it is Digby. There are two poles. That is what they move the story. They carry the story on their shoulders. That is what I felt, madam. We can't say that he is negative or that type of a thing.
No,
Yeah.
For
he's
me,
not. In fact, he did not really bask in that superiority which the Indians were showing. He was feeling guilty.
he never
So
Yeah.
that
think it.
again shows his character.
Correct.
He moves around the Chennai. He goes this way, that way, and all other
Yeah.
things. By
Yeah.
cycle, he goes. He tries to understand the place.
But
That's
it
all.
is very, obviously a person gravitates towards a place or a person or wherever they are respected and they are honored and, where they are appreciated, I would say. So that is very evident in how he never leaves India. So he knows that going back is not going to get him into that kind of respect. And I think,
Very correct. Very correct.
yeah,
The
But
adoration and everything.
yeah,
but with the
exactly.
with the attachment he develops for the country, with the people here, professional excellence he cultivates. Actually, that will never be a reason for him to go back to Glasgow. That's what I
Correct.
felt. He
Correct.
would have only continued to remain in India. He had an
Yes.
emotional attachment for the place.
Mm.
And
Yes.
also, we can never ignore that. Anyway, that will be coming at the end, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he joins the leprosarium, actually. That is
Yeah,
something important. He takes
correct.
responsibility. And at that time, please remember, in the beginning of the 20th century, they were outcasts, actually. They were never put into the mainstream. They were
Yeah.
Exactly.
hated. That he accepts.
Mm.
They were tabooed.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yes, and not
Ostracized
only
by
that,
society.
look at his professional excellence, actually.
Yeah.
When his hands
So
are
that is
burnt,
the Dr. Abraham Verghese's autobiographical element here, right? Because even he has served,
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
and
yes,
Yes.
that
yes.
he has brought his medical experiences, profession into the
Ah,
story he has interwoven. So
Correct.
this
Exactly.
planetarium, everything is a reflection of Dr. Verghese's experiences.
Experiences.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is
Yeah.
autobiographical.
Yeah.
So when Rune goes away, he takes the total responsibility of the leprosarium. And when Philippos brings that small kid who gets
Mm.
drowned,
Mm.
he will not be in a position to operate. With those
Yeah.
surgical instruments, he guides Philippos actually, and to
Yeah.
make the boy alive. That's wonderful actually.
Yeah. That was
Not
very,
all
yeah,
touching, very touching actually.
very
That
touching. Yeah.
two pages I read twice actually.
Mm.
Wonderful. And Filippo says, I don't know anything about this. Don't worry, you are my student. So there is a beautiful word for that. He
Mm.
employs it. Don't worry, I will tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
Small thing. That is beautiful. That's why. So, okay. There are two sides. So we have to accept them that way now.
Mm.
The other question was, why we was England, India, he goes to be part of lower class. That is a fact. What class
Yeah.
do you think big brothers belonging to more? He belonged to our local
Indians.
Indian conditions. That's what. How might you be able to see from the perspective of a different class? No, I wish him to continue in the same class which he has what I
Mhm.
call accepted. Let him
Yeah.
remain there, and he will be able to do a better service if he remains there instead of going to his parent, the country that is left. I wish he continues in our country and extends his wonderful service, medical service. That is my feeling, man.
True, true, very true. I had one more question too. So,
Please.
uh, this is just something generally which I felt. So, one of the reasons which is given for conversion, especially in our country, is that people convert away from Hinduism so as to escape the caste imposition and the caste discrimination. However, reading the book and also our own personal experiences are always shown us that the caste system seems to have found a way into even other religions. Especially here, we see it in Christianity too, right? One of the things which I felt was that this must have been something which was surprising to the British, right? Because this was not the situation there. But as always, they have not done anything to change this, which they could have done. They could have forced that it will be only one church for irrespective of whichever caste you are. But I think this was also a form of oppression which they had brought in through their inaction. Uh, Please feel free to share your views on it.
Last sentence, okay. They were bent upon extending their agenda, divide and rule.
Yeah. So
As
again, I
many
think this
divisions,
was the divide and rule kind of helped them, I
naturally.
think, here also.
And even if they tried also, for years together, our people were accustomed to the caste, rituals, vagera, vagera. It would not have changed. It's a label Christianity.
Hmm.
And that goes for to the advantage of the Britishers, the rulers. They wanted to divide. As many divisions are there, that much easier is to rule those divided groups. That is my feeling, man.
Hmm.
And it continues present nowadays also.
Yeah.
Divide. Put one
Hmm.
against the other.
Yeah, yeah.
It-
So there are specific churches, like I've seen like I'm talking from Tamil Nadu's point of view, but there are churches for, upper caste Christians and lower caste, when there is no caste at all in Christianity. So where did these upper caste Christians, lower
No,
caste Christians came in? No, it's
when I
so.
began my service, I worked in a tribal district, full body.
Mm-hmm.
There many Hindus are there. Similarly, Christians are also there. As
Mm-hmm.
far as Christian, we know there are not many rituals as far as Christianity is concerned. But these people in temples, they used to lit diyas, they used to lit agarbattis, and then Bhajan type of a thing, yeah, all those things they were doing. I asked, what is this? They said, no, we practice this here. That means influence of Hinduism or influence of rituals of Hinduism also were there in the locally converted Christians, some tribal communities. That was there. Otherwise,
Correct.
if you bring something else, candle, rest of the things actually, it may not, it may put off these people from joining that.
Yeah.
Even I had a friend, father of a Baptist actually. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, Baptist actually. Paris or something like. Because sons, two sons were working in our department. His father was working for the church.
Mm-hmm.
They were following their own. Not much. It's not that they have brought Christians from Rome and those rituals only they do. Local rituals they are following. It makes them comfortable
Correct.
psychologically. They will
Yeah.
not feel out of place because the temple
Mm.
there is a agarbatti. In my case also there is agarbatti here. Since the comfort level increases, they went in for following the ritual. That is what I feel, madam.
Mm. True.
Uh, I would like to add something to this
Yes.
discussion.
Yes, then.
There are a lot of layers of classification and caste system in Christianity. People think that it is an Indian thing. It is not. For
Mm-hmm.
example, like even in if you read British history, you would see that initially the Catholics were ruling and then they were overthrown by Protestants and eventually Puritans. So in their mind, they created a hierarchy that the Protestants are superior and the Catholics are not. Okay, and coming from my personal experience, like I said, my grandparents, a set of my grandparents are from Kerala. So my mother was raised as a Catholic in Kerala.
Mm.
And she grew up with the idea that Catholics are upper caste and Protestants are lower caste. My father was raised in North India and also raised as a Catholic, but he always knew the Protestants and they did not have a hierarchy back then. Or even till now, we do not have a hierarchy in North India when it comes to Catholics and Protestants. So when my mother traveled to North India, she automatically assumed that what she had learned in Kerala applied to the entire country. And she was surprised to see that no, in certain parts, especially the northeast India and all, Protestants were in majority, and this whole Protestants being lower caste was a very Keralite thing. So I went down the rabbit hole and I realized that initially, when Christianity spread, it came through Saint Thomas, and there were a bunch of Brahmin families who adopted Christianity. So they made it a upper caste thing. They
Mm.
refrained, they stopped the lower caste people from converting into Christianity because they were like, it is our thing. You're not allowed.
Wow.
So when the Britishers came to be, Britishers were Protestants, so they obviously converted the lower caste people, and therefore this hierarchy that is found specifically in Kerala, where the Catholics are considered superior and the Protestants are considered inferior. This was a politics done by the local people. But like even in India, if you see overall, there have been multiple divisions. You are divided by which parish you go to, which pastor you belong to, or like all of those things. So Christianity, like any other religion, is not devoid of um, divisions. Even a religion like Islam has its divisions where it was meant not to be, and people often forget that Christianity, like every other major religion, had been an Eastern religion. So it would obviously come with divisions. Even in the in the Judaism, you would see there were divisions. There were like 12 tribes. And even in then, there was like some people said, oh, this tribe is superior, this tribe is inferior. It is just intrinsic to um, and in Eastern thinking or even like global thinking, I would say, because like I said, in the British history also, there had been a war where like sometimes the Catholics were ruling and for the majority part, the Protestants were ruling. And what the Puritans did is like pretty much history, history of English literature. So this thing that the Britishers were devoid of caste, it is a modern fallacy. At least that's what I believe, because they have always discriminated. It's not that they were the purest of the people thinking that no, ours is a no. They were discriminating among themselves, and I probably don't think that it would have been fascinating for them probably to come to a country and see the level of classifications we ended up doing, the
Mm.
intricacy of it probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was then it's not wasn't anything new to them. That I
No,
guess.
no. That
Yeah.
probably they were just fascinated that okay, we could do like 15 classifications. These people have done it like 30, 35 classifications. Probably it was hard for them to remember that okay, per surname also you can identify a caste. It was
Mm.
mind-boggling for them, which
That's
is
what.
not surprising because the amount of literature they created in centuries was just a fragment of literature that we created. We have always been like that extroverted kid who's doing all of those things. So
Correct.
I just think that they just blamed us saying, oh, you people are classist or you people are castists. But no, it's a global phenomena. Every place has had its classification. No
Hmm.
religion is devoid of it. I, as a Christian person, say this. Like, in fact, when you go down south, like in the North India and in
Hmm.
the simpler parts where there are very few like churches and all, it is pretty simple. You don't go into the complexities, but the amount of classification that exists in like Kerala itself, there are certain churches that would not wear jewelry because they think that it is against some uh, philosophy that they follow. And then there are Catholics who are like, okay, we like use a lot of jewelry. You can identify a person by the way they are dressed up. Some
Hmm.
people, not everybody wears crosses. And I was not aware of it being raised in a different part of India. But it's just that when I hear my mother talk and when I hear that side of the family talk, I'm like, how do you people even remember this? They're like, it's intrinsic to us. We see a person and we can identify which church they go to by the way they are speaking and all. So yeah, it's pretty fascinating. But yeah,
Yeah. Very true. I could, some of the things which you had mentioned, Zenith, were things which even I'm used to. Like, for instance, I've also seen some members of my family are converted Christians. So I've seen this against jewelry uh, system, and then must dress simply, shouldn't wear anything flashy, must live simply, all those kind of things. And then usually, I'm not sure, but usually for us, we've always considered Catholics are as the cool Christians because we are always used to these people who don't
absolutely. We are
dress
the,
well
I
and
consider Catholics, like I'm also a Catholic by birth, so I consider us as the party people. Like we dress up
yeah.
extravagantly. We are more like we believe in philosophy. We don't have rigid rules. We
Hmm.
have a lot of like hymns and everything is so extravagant to a point where
Yeah.
nobody cares. Like nobody would judge you that much. I that way, my experience with Protestants has been that it is very restrictive and they have everything like they are controlled so much.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
amount of literature they read, they probably, some families believe that you should not have your family members photos, some people believe that you should not have crosses and those kinds of things. We don't have that, those sort of issues. So Catholics have been the cooler kids, but like their faith is pretty loose that way. I
Hmm.
would say that also. um, so
I
yeah,
think I don't believe in that. So I feel faith is a very, very inside thing. And just
like
by
they
not
they're
wearing
not
jewelry,
rigid
you
with
don't
things,
really
huh?
show it,
Huh?
you don't prove
They're
it.
not rigid with things. Their faith doesn't
Yeah.
interfere with their day-to-day life. That is what I feel.
Yeah.
And with Protestants, they take it very personally, which is good for them. If that is how they are raised, I don't judge,
Hmm.
honestly.
Yeah. For us personally as a family, sometimes it gets a little difficult, because you're in a marriage, everyone is dressed well, and only these people would be like without jewelry in a very
Yes, yes.
drab clothing.
That's how you
So,
recognize a Protestant. That they would probably
and
not wear jewelry.
yeah, so I've
Yeah.
had like we used to also have a lot of Catholic friends, and then we have some puja or something at home. They would be very cool about coming there, they're quite
Yeah,
okay, they're
they
very more
also wear
tolerant.
bindi. They
Yeah, they
don't
wear
bother in.
bindi. Yeah. So these like these relatives of mine would be like, oh my God, no, 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 we can't enter. We can't have something which you kept as a prasad. We're not supposed
Yes,
to do
yes,
this, not
they
supposed to
don't
do
have
that.
prasads, and a
Yeah.
Catholic would say, "I have blessed it with my hands, and I can have the prasad." That's what
Yeah.
they will say.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's yeah, like I told you, we always consider them as the more cooler Christians.
there's another
Yeah.
argument that I constantly face, like being told that, "Oh, your relatives must be converted" and stuff like that. It has been a while because from what my mother's side of the family says that they have been Christians since Saint Thomas arrived. It's hard
Mm,
to claim what is true. But one thing I can say for sure is that there are certain families who got converted and they did not like it, so they
mm,
retained their Hindu faith. And
mhm.
then there are families like mine in which the grandparents and the great grandparents were extreme devotees. I don't know if it was brainwashing, I don't know if they liked the culture itself, but they have been the ones who have like loved the religion with a passion that they have passed it on to their kids, saying ki this is the truth. You should love it as much as we. So that has been a thing. So even if somebody says to me, "Oh, all Christians in India, they have been converted," I said, "You need to meet my grandparents and great grandparents. They are pretty passionate about their religion, and
Mm,
therefore it has been passed on to us." And then there are families I know who probably their ancestors were converted by force, and they were not passionate about the religion. So after
mhm,
the independence, or a few years even into the independence,
mhm,
they did not pass down that passion to their kids. So the
mm,
kids converted out, or they married out of the Christian
mm,
like institution. They married non-Christians, they married Hindus, Muslims, whatever, or they are not very religious, they are not very
mm.
uh, spiritually inclined, which is also a truth. But to say that everybody has been through the same trauma, probably not. Yeah,
Right.
that's just something I wanted to add.
Just a question, Zenith, not really related to this, just for my own, knowledge of it.
Yes.
Is it that you can't convert into a Catholic? You can only convert into a Protestant? Is there anything like that?
No, 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 not at all. You can convert into a Catholic, you can convert into a Protestant. In fact, uh, it is pretty common for, I've seen like there are families in which, like, if the son is marrying a non
Mm-hmm.
Catholic person, then it is sort of encouraged if the female is being added to the family. If she wants to convert, if she says, "I don't want to convert," that is also not a problem. It's just that the religious marriage would not be considered the uh, sole proof. They would go through the court marriage, and the religious marriage would be more of a symbolic thing. But there are a lot of families where they have been like, "Oh, you're marrying my son, you need to convert." So those people have converted back in the day. Right now, nowadays, nobody does that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Catholics and Protestants are more hands-on when it comes to propagation of religion.
Yeah.
Catholics are a bit more laid back. Catholics are a bit more concerned about their image, so they don't want to be the ones out there fighting and like going through hardships. Protestants are the hardcore ones, so they are the
Mm.
ones usually who go around talking to people, saying probably your faith is the wrong faith. Uh,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah, but like anybody can convert it to like
Okay.
Catholicism or Protestantism. You have to go through a lot of procedures. I know that you have to go through a lot of sacraments, and like you need to know certain. You need basically in Catholicism we have even like written tests and all that. You need to be knowing this
Okay.
much of knowledge. Then only we'll
Okay.
make you eligible for a baptism.
Okay.
Another difference is that in Catholics, the baptism is very much like a name ceremony, christening for
Mm,
kids. Like if you're
mm,
born a Catholic, like I was born a Catholic, so my baptism was not through my agreement or my intention because I was a baby, right? So
yeah.
that they say in the press that we are baptizing this child by virtue of the parents and godparents' faith.
Mm,
Okay, in Protestants, that doesn't happen. They have a christening ceremony, which is a naming ceremony. And when a kid becomes like a teenager or like even like 18 or even 21, when they are eligible to proclaim their faith, then they are baptized. So
okay.
till then, they would be considered Christians, but they would not be baptized. This is a very Protestant sort of. This I came to know much later, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I wish that we also Catholics also had that option. A lot of Catholics would probably opt out of baptism then. But yeah, it is something. So there are, like I said, plus and minus aspects of both Catholics
Mm.
and Protestants. Like some things are good, some things are bad, stuff like that.
Very, very interesting. Thanks a lot, Zenith, for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you for the details you shared now.
Yeah. These are things we would have never known otherwise,
No, we're not a note on that. I have a
Yeah.
Catholic friend.
Mm.
Interesting. Hello, this is Bharat. I had a few things to add. You know, the debate is on whether caste system in India was created originally by Hinduism at some point by a distortion of Hinduism actually, or whether it was majorly promoted and propagated because of the British rule. So the jury is out on that. But I just wanted to mention that caste system is like characterized by heredity and particularly endogamy. I was reading a interesting book on genetics, the modern genetic studies, and what they found is based on DNA, the DNA studies which were done. What they found is, in India you have isolated gene pools for each caste because usually the caste people don't intermarry with people in other caste, and therefore each gene pool of each major caste has developed separately, and therefore there may be members of a particular caste who may be susceptible to certain genetic disorders. So it was a very interesting insight for me. Over several centuries this has happened, and that's why it has developed like this. I doubt whether in any other country we have a similar kind of phenomenon. In Britain there may be classism, which are higher class and lower class, and suppose somebody is very enterprising, he can climb the social ladder. However, in Indian system, that is not possible. Once somebody belongs to a caste for life, that person belongs to that caste only. Interestingly, there is a book written in the US, which was a worldwide bestseller, called Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, where she says that racism is something which is akin to caste, because once you are born into a lower race, you can never get out of it. And then the systems of discrimination are similar. So she has actually, done a comparison through the book between the Indian caste system and the American race-based discriminatory system. So I just thought I'll mention that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have a question regarding this because I've been dealing with this question a lot. Is that you see, we think that this caste system is like a nationwide thing, that there is this system and everybody follows it. But from what I understand, coming from like North India and South India, I know that the South Indian history is very different. So the caste system down south is pretty different from the caste system that is followed in the north, and it is different from the one that is followed in the northeast. And then if you look
Correct.
at the Jammu Kashmir region, those people have Greek and Roman ancestries also. And then if you look at the Punjab region, they had a lot of Afghani blood as well. And then you look at the Maharashtra and Gujarat, so they had a lot of Parsi people coming in. So while we understand that the system again, it might not have been a nationwide thing, it would not have been a what you call Indian subcontinental thing, because as per every state it changes. Like in Maharashtra, I know there are different castes, and like I said, in Tamil Nadu there would be different castes, and in Kerala there are different castes. So one cannot pinpoint that the caste system was followed to the T, because it changed as per the region. And also there had been so much mixing up, even like as I mentioned, the northeast or the Tibetan region, they have like this East Asian bloodline, because obviously their features and all, and Indian features have been so diverse. So I always think that while we do believe that there has been this caste system and people followed this to the T, and everybody had their they would not marry into another caste, I don't think that would have been the truth, because of the amount of invasions we've had, amount of uh, foreigner input we've had, even in like the coastal areas in Kerala and all. People have always had like there's a lot of Arabian blood in the Kerala region. There's a lot of Jewish
Correct.
blood in the Kerala region. The features speak for themselves. So, was the caste system like a countrywide thing? Do you people also believe that? Because I don't think that is true.
Yeah, but that is something specific to India. That is, this kind of endogamy which is being practiced over the centuries,
Yes, but
right?
like you
Between
see, the tribals of Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh would not be following it. The people down south would not be following it. The people in the northeast would not be following it. The people in Jammu and Kashmir would be following something else, right?
No,
I know it is specific to India.
like Zenith, just to like you meant like that people in down south will marry into different castes. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm saying that there was different systems. What the caste system that we know of, the Indo-Aryan system of caste that we know of, that comes from
Mm-hmm.
the Rig Veda and stuff like that. It's a very North-centric ideology, because you see, Hinduism reached south much later, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Northeast had their different influences, and then
You,
we have the Afghani
yeah,
blood coming in from
subcastes
the,
have always been a very different, right? It's very different. The
yeah.
subcastes are very different in every region, I think.
Yes, that's what I mean. So
Yeah.
when we say that, like the caste system that people picked up on, even the British writers picked up on, saying that this is the Indian caste system,
Mm-hmm.
they were probably concerned with the northern belt, where the Gangetic belt where the river Ganga flowed, because that
Mm-hmm.
that was the crux of the Sanatan Dharma. Because every other religion, they had their variations, even in when it comes to gods and mythologies and stories like that, the
Mm-hmm.
folk and everything, it changes. So it is difficult for me to understand, and because I know that the caste system of North India is not applicable to the caste system of Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, which is not applicable to the caste system of like Kerala,
Mm.
right?
Probably, I'm not sure. I have not read about it, but I'm just assuming, if I take myself as a researcher, probably he might have analyzed the DNAs of from multiple places of multiple castes and seen how there is not much of intermixing at all in any of those. So there's so many different gene pools when it comes to India. That's what I think was the researcher's idea of, what he was
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yeah, but the difference in the features, the variations in the features that we find across the country,
Mm-hmm.
uh, doesn't tally with it, right? It like
Yeah.
maybe I'm confused at this
So
point.
I have I have given the references in the chat. So maybe
Right.
Yeah,
we
David
can.
Rich.
maybe we should
Yeah,
read up more
it is a
about
very
it.
interesting book, sir, and it talks about the genetic evolution of the whole world. And there is one
David,
chapter for India. So it is a very interesting read.
And there's
Acha,
one
it
more
is
thing that I
David
wanted to add.
Harvey's
I
name.
had studied history of like ancient Indian history up until the arrival of Mughals, arrival of like the foreign invaders, till in my college level. It was my subsidiary. So in that, I came across, we were taught that in the caste system, obviously the foreign invaders didn't fit, right? So back in the day, during the days of Mahajanpads, 16 Mahajanpads, when the historians, Indian historians would write about they need to write about a person's caste as well, right? So they included all the foreign invaders into Shudras, because they were like, obviously they are not Brahmins, they are not Kshatriyas, they don't qualify even as Vaishyas. Any foreign invader will include them as Shudras.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that is taught in college. So I'm not just making it up. It is a fact that historians of those time periods have included all the foreigners as Shudras. So then
But
that
one
again like
thing,
confuses the system that we know of, right?
but despite all the external changes, the basic divisions have not undergone any change. That's what I submit. Let us put it. There are four main categories as per Manusmriti. One is a Brahmin, who is a priestly class, and the other one is Kshatriya, the rulers and administrators, and warriors for that matter, and Vaishyas, who do business, artisans, merchants, tradesmen, etc., and Sudras, the laboring classes. Now got added Dalits to it, the fifth one. But these four fundamental divisions have not changed. Maybe cosmetically, external appearance might have undergone a change. These remain everywhere. That's what I feel.
Hmm. And also, if they had classified them as Shudras, but they hadn't treated them as Shudras, they had treated them even more than what Brahmins were treated, is my opinion on it.
No, no. During
So,
the Mahajanpads, every foreigner was considered like they were not that time the Indian superiority complex was a lot. It has been deteriorated over time with the Mughal rule and then obviously the British rule. But initially,
Mhm.
if you look at the history and if you look at the literature, Indians had a superiority which right now can only be seen in Turkey because people say that Turkey has never been ruled by a colonial power. So they
Mm-hmm.
have a superiority complex, and this is a superiority complex that Indian subcontinent also had because we were in power. People were giving us money, people were taking our spices. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, it makes total sense that the historians back in the day
Mm-hmm.
put
This is
every
which
outsider.
century you're talking about, actually, Zenith?
Yeah.
This was which century where it
This was
was
during the 16 Mahajanpads. I need to look
the
up the timeline, but this
it's
is during the
long,
16 Mah.
yeah, so much
Yeah, yeah.
before the
It is
British were
around
there.
the time that Alexander tried to get into India.
Yeah,
It's around that
okay,
time.
okay. It's
Modern
very
empire.
interesting. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
I just want to add that
Yes, Milan.
today there are more than 3,000 castes and 25,000 subcastes. So it's very, very difficult to actually trace the origin and understand how all these divisions
Exactly.
came
Yeah.
Yeah,
about.
correct, correct.
This has also been a query of mine. Like a lot of people have asked this not directly, but a lot of people say, "Oh, Muslims are convertees, Christians are convertees, stuff like that." So, if any Christian or a Muslim right now wants to convert into Hinduism, and
Mm-hmm.
probably they're like since 4 generations or 5 generations they've been in a Muslim or a Christian, how will they clarify which caste they belong to? Because this is a big problem when it
That
comes
is
to
why
conversion into Hinduism.
I am not sure, Zenith, but I have never heard of anyone who has converted into Hinduism. This is the truth.
Yeah, yeah,
So
fair enough.
this is what I was told. Like my father also always mentions that Hinduism is one religion which you are born into. You can't really convert into Hinduism, frankly speaking. At least I've not come across anyone who has done it.
I know the
So
foreigners always try to the Westerners are always trying to convert it to
yeah,
yeah, the hippies and all. But I'm like,
they
which
just adopt it,
caste
but
will
I
it?
don't think there's anything like
Yeah, I
baptism
don't
or
think they are
any.
probably assigned a caste. They probably would not be because how will you determine it? Because it is
Exactly.
based on the bloodline, right?
Right,
Can we
right.
just move on, please? Because
Yeah,
it's already 8 and we have not proceeded.
I
Yeah.
know, I know. Let's continue. So another, beautiful theme in the book has been the connectedness, especially when he says with or that all water is connected. It's been a very recurring theme in the novel. And the whole book symbolizes the interconnectedness of people and their shared experiences. Even the connection, in fact, I felt, between the ghost in the cellar and Big Amachi. It was also so beautifully brought out. And the first wife is the ghost in the cellar, and there's this young girl who comes, and all the relationship between them, how she shows her anger, the ghost shows the anger, and everything was so beautifully brought out. And the idea and importance of family, and not just through blood relations, especially towards the end when we know, who was Mariamma and what was basically her, birth. We see it's not really through blood relation. So all these shared experiences and connectedness is another thing which he so beautifully brings out. So despite being religious, Big Amachi firmly believes in ghosts. So she even believes ghosts can break pots, cause food to spoil, that she can communicate with them about their behavior, etc. So I felt the ghost was also part of the family connectedness. And so, what do you think? Do you think religions and ghosts can coexist? And how might these belief systems basically support or undermine each other? Another beautiful scene I felt was when the kid, Jojo, yeah. So when Jojo passes away, and when Big Mama Machi feels that she's going to be blamed, but she goes and speaks to the ghost, and how actually the ghost and her console each other about it. I thought very beautifully done characterization and passage that was. Do any of you want to share anything about it, or shall I go on?
This big Ambacha has come in the place of earlier, first
Yeah,
wife.
yes.
So she feels actually the first wife is a ghost and still remains in the house in the cellar.
Mm,
And Jojo happens to be first wife's son.
mm,
So, in order to pacify her, she goes and explains, I am at no fault.
Mm.
And
Correct.
as a strength, he depends on her. Naturally, she is senior in
Yeah.
the house, whether available or not available, whether
Mm.
physically or not physically, but she is available there in abstract form. At
Mm.
that time in 1973, a sound here, a sound there, a typical pot falling, a vessel sound, all those things were taken to be the signals from a ghost.
Yeah.
It was
And
the
I thought
belief
it's
system.
so beautifully brought out and such a very
Was
interesting character, in fact, the
exactly,
ghost
exactly. It
itself.
is not
Yeah.
available physically, we don't feel, but the sounds are heard. Her presence is felt
Correct.
always.
Yeah. So community and belonging is also another very important aspect of the as a theme of Covenant of Water. It's so the novel poses a profound question about the possibility of being vulnerable, wounded, yet still necessary and loved. Especially in Elsie's character when she returns back and how Big Amachi takes care of her and makes her feel loved and necessary and cherished, and it explores the value of each individual within a community regardless of their circumstances. This is seen when the people around are also given land by Big Bachchan. He gives out land to his relatives. He asks more people to come to the place, settle down, be there, and he creates an entire village, in fact, from nothing. And a huge sense of community and belonging is seen, and especially where they all remove their gold and donate it for the hospital, which was also very beautifully done.
Yes. A big Amachi contributes to maximum first.
Yeah, correct. And another thing which we can just not escape talking about has been the landscape and nature. There's such beautiful, rich descriptions of Kerala, including the weather, flora, the geography of the place, everything. And all those descriptions also sometimes used to act as metaphors for the societal and personal elements, like caste and privilege, how the elephant always used to come whenever there is something important. So whenever the elephant has come means we can always know that there's something which is important. And also how baby mole always used to feel something different when something is going to happen in society. She used to be able to say how people are coming. So those kind of and also that incident with the tree where he had written about the tree, which finally becomes a very important part of the story. But he'd written that Philippos had written that story about a tree. That was
Yes.
also a very a narrative on the personal, on the societal elements which are there. And yeah, yes, Shamil Raj.
That elephant you spoke of, it is a wonderful character, Damo.
Yeah,
Damodaran.
yeah,
Damodaran, an elephant. Whenever
correct.
anything important happens, and remember when actually this Bigamachi comes, he comes first and what I call receives the new young girl.
Correct.
That what is it's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing actually. Because
On
she
a
entirely
birthday,
feels to
on
me
a
there was
birthday,
no.
Damodar is the only one comes to greet her on a birthday.
Yeah,
Exactly,
correct.
exactly correct
Yeah.
actually.
And it's really beautiful. And those days, elephants used to really move around Kerala like that, freely and going around everywhere. So it's not like he's tied up or he's restricted to one place. He comes here, and then sometimes he just moves away and roams around in the jungle. So all that
Because
is very beautifully brought out.
this elephant is treated by Apachana actually. When
Yeah,
she was injured, she was
yeah,
brought and she was treated. That loyalty she retains all along.
all along. Correct.
Ah, he's a good character in that story.
Yeah. So throughout the Covenant of Water, various characters act as caretakers and they also demonstrate healing abilities. So in what ways does healing intertwine with the practice of medicine for the salvation of the characters? Do any of the
Healing means
scenes come into
healing
your
means
mind?
okay. Healing means do you speak of faith healing?
No, I mean in different ways. Like for instance, how they try to make him draw after his hand is burned, and how Elsie comes as a child and teaches Digby,
Digby to
yeah, draw. And that scene is very beautiful, I think, very beautifully
Very,
done, how she ties her hand
very,
to him.
very touching.
Very
Actually, she
touching.
gets a piece of coal and then asks him to draw. When he will
Mm,
not be able to, she puts her hand on his hand and makes it move. That
correct.
is okay, but
It's also a
sometimes
kind of healing, I felt,
a
yeah.
caretaker healing. Okay, I will.
Mm.
That is accepted.
There were more other scenes also.
Mm.
One more which comes to my mind is where Elsie has a very difficult pregnancy.
Yes,
And yeah, and that scene is written out so well, and at the same time, it's so scary and touching and everything at the
the-
same time,
you cannot easily forget.
Correct.
There are certain moments in the book actually. They
Mm,
haunt you for a long time. And as the present scene is like that. The delivery was difficult. She will not remain. She will not be able to breastfeed the
mm,
baby. She leaves. She goes
mm,
away. No one knows where she has gone. Testing
mm.
time. It's a very
Yeah,
important moment. And she on and we'll know at the end of the story why she leaves. That is a different thing. But at that
yeah.
particular moment, everyone was worried. What makes her to go away when everything got
Mm,
settled? When
correct,
her
correct.
husband has accepted everything is okay,
Mm,
why she left?
yeah.
That was important. So at the end, we'll know why it has happened. That's a different thing.
Yeah. So I felt there was like a lot of that kind of healing also, which was mentioned, along with such detailed, I think, descriptions of medicine also, the practice
That
of
is another
medicine.
point in the book. That is
Yeah,
another point
correct.
because naturally the writer is a doctor and he has
Hmm.
got medical knowledge and
Yeah,
it's very
so we
natural.
see both a blend of Western
Very
medicinal
correct. Very correct.
practices
That's what
as well as
uh,
traditional, healing practices. Because
practices.
he's from Kerala, his childhood, so he has experienced the Ayurveda treatment and the use of herbs and everything for healing. And then after going to the West and
Yes.
becoming a surgeon, the modern medical practices. So he has depicted both here in this book.
Exactly correct.
Rightly
And
said, Meenal.
remember, a doctor writing about that profession will be definitely be different from a writing about doctor's profession because
Yeah.
he has got first-hand knowledge for that matter. And there are several things. And but one thing that put me off was the special vocabulary. It is not easy to follow. Instead of saying a collarbone, he says something else.
Who is
Unless
this?
and until unless and
Yeah,
until you run to the dictionary, you can't immediately
there
get it.
is, yeah, Meenal. There is in one scene where he breaks his collarbone, right?
And he
Uh,
doesn't call it a collarbone. He calls
Yeah.
it something else.
Hmm.
okay.
The actual medical name of the particular bone, orthopedic, whatever that
Yes,
is what it's
yes.
called.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And the body, man, these parts of body are also not said normally.
Hmm.
They are actually represented in the medical terminology. That's what I found. And that sometimes is difficult. So
Hmm.
if you're little interested, you can improve your vocabulary. You can also grasp what it's trying to say. It is an
Yes.
additional point and advantage to us.
Yeah.
And there are several cases. I will tell you, for instance, when Jeb, that hockey player who was convicted, he was
Hmm.
treated for aneurysm, ANEURYSM. I was not
Hmm.
aware of the meaning of that word, frankly.
Okay. Hmm.
And baby mole was suffering from phrenitism,
Hmm.
TRETINISM, phrenitism. We don't
Hmm.
know. Got it. And then establishing a leprosium. These are
Hmm.
the words. We do not come across a normal course.
Correct.
Ah, and another thing, actually, Digby's burnt right hand was treated by grafting of skin on his right chest skin.
Hmm.
Grafting
Yes.
of skin, he
Tapping the
beautifully,
skin.
Yeah.
that's wonderfully it is done. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
one more thing, you see, he guides Philippos to operate the boatman's child who stopped breathing through operation.
Hmm.
He doesn't do operation, someone else does it. And we cannot just imagine actually. On your behalf, I do my work. Those things do not happen.
Hmm.
And another thing also particularly about Lenin, it is an
Hmm.
ingenious treatment because the hand comes out of uterus actually. What it does is, it is
Hmm.
stuck into the air. He puts actually by putting a cherut, burning cherut on the and the hand automatically gets into the cherut. I'm sorry, uterus. That is another way of doing things while he operated Lenin. There
Yeah.
are several things actually, particularly if you are little interested, one can increase his medical knowledge also. That's what I found.
Yeah. In fact, I didn't know he was a doctor. So after I started reading and one of those portions when it initially came up, that's when I actually went and referenced and saw how did he write this. Then I realized, okay, he's a doctor. Yeah.
May I
He is
ask
very
one
thorough.
question here?
Yes, Meenal.
Now, throughout the novel, we come to know about the condition. Okay, and we know it leads to drowning, and every member of the family in every generation, somebody has succumbed to that condition. Now, in the novel, two things are mentioned. One is it's a disease called von Recklinghausen, and or it is known as neurofibromatosis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, which is a genetic disorder. Now, I just looked it up, and for this Recklinghausen disease, it manifests actually as cysts or those lumps on the skin. You've seen like huge boils. It comes.
Okay.
But there is no mention of that in the novel when they describe people suffering from the condition. So I was not sure because this is supposed to be a cancerous tumor. It forms bumps. If you see the image of people suffering from this Recklinghausen disease, there'll be big lumps all over the skin.
Okay.
But there's nothing like that mentioned in the novel. So I was just wondering what exactly is the condition that is being referred to here in the novel.
The condition they understood was something it has to do with the brain, madam.
What?
Because
Yeah.
left position or right position, that creates a problem. They cannot feel actually water at their feet. They don't know the depth or height or something like that. That's because of the brain position.
That when this Amachi's granddaughter, again, Mariamma, when she becomes a doctor,
yes.
When she
finds it out.
herself becomes a doctor, then they investigate, she researches, and she finds out.
Remember, as long as that was not found, what I felt was, for instance, we also read about a book, actually, 100 Years of Solitude of Marquez.
Yes.
There it was also treating generations. It was a generations story.
Yes.
Similarly, there was also concept magic realism.
Yes.
So I thought there is a parallel between these two books because here also generations are handled, and there is also this concept all till the end, as Madam has just. We don't know why it happens, why people get drowned. I thought it is a concept of magic realism a little. But when the truth was told, it comes out for 3 generations. Then only we could know, it is because of it has happened. And in one of the interviews, he also said, actually, our Verghese, he is influenced by this Marquez writing. He has said. And similarly, Somerset Maugham also. He referred to the Razor's Edge. He followed these 2 writers, and he said actually they have considerable influence on me like that.
Yeah, sorry. Yes. Hello?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can hear me, right? Okay.
Yes, now we are able to hear.
Yes. So, yeah. Should I proceed?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to at least mention some of these characters who've been I know we've not discussed much about them because the book is too long. But I thought each of them were also, these 5 characters especially played a very important role and they were very touching roles for each of them. So one was Baby Mole. What she suffers from is basically, I think it's Down syndrome, right?
Yes, Down syndrome.
Down syndrome. But he never calls it as such, I think, anywhere in the book.
He did call it, he has given the other name, madam.
Yeah, the other name. Correct.
Medical, that's what I'm trying to say. He has put a purely technical medical name.
Correct. So nowhere it's mentioned.
That is told by the other doctor. She suffers from rheumatism. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We can't do anything about it like that. The doctor says to become.
But she's a very sweet and a very nice character actually. And the other one is
And
Jojo. So
Jojo
Jojo
also.
again, yeah, I think that was like one of the first, character who suffers from the condition initially in the book, whom we see is losing out, and that was also kind of very disturbing and sad. So I just wanted to add one thing to what Meenal had mentioned. So a little bit of whatever I'd seen, Meenal, about the disease, that one Recklinghausen or whatever is that, it like exhibits in 3-4 different ways is what I heard, what I somewhere read about it. And one of the ways is what he talks about. So one of the ways is where, the whole body has those marks and other things, which is there. And one, I heard that it also exhibits as ADHD and those kind of symptoms. Did you read about that?
No.
No. So there was one more which was about ADHD and stuff where, but again, that is not something, I'm not sure how far is that thing which, which applies to Jojo or Ninan. They were very hyperactive kids who wouldn't sit in one place, climb up trees, and all those things were there in them. So not sure how much of that part of it applies to them. But again, maybe I also felt the author had taken some amount of, I think, his own license, literary license, probably to kind of manipulate the symptoms a bit. Maybe. I just felt that, because it doesn't really exactly fit any of those 3 or 4 different types of the disease itself.
Yes.
Even though, yeah. But one place, if I'm not wrong, the one where the big Apachan is there. So when he dies, he does suffer from a few conditions, right? Like I think there's something issue with his eyes, something happens to him, and I don't remember now. I kind of forgot it.
He becomes deaf also.
He becomes deaf and all.
I becomes deaf towards the
Yeah.
end.
So those ones were like those symptoms were exactly of that condition. Some of those symptoms. So not sure. Probably I felt he's also taken some amount of literary license. Probably
You
with
just
it.
maintain that a bit an element of suspense and mystery.
Correct.
Is kept that
Yeah.
of mysteriousness to this condition.
Correct. And I think he didn't want us to very clearly see all the symptoms in all the characters who went through it, I guess. So maybe that's why also he did this, probably. I never realized till the end that it's going to have a medical name to it, I always thought it's some kind of a mumbo jumbo thing among the whole.
Initially, I thought it's like a curse to that family.
Curse to the family.
Kind of a curse,
Ninan was another very sweet character, which again was very, really touching, and it was one of a very disturbing scenes, I think, in the book. Again, Samuel and Jopan were also very intense characters and very beautifully written and brought out. And it was very obvious Samuel could easily accept his position in life and other things, and how Jopan didn't want to, and he fought against it. And all that, I think, was very beautifully brought out.
Beautifully done.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. As far as Samuel is concerned, let me supplement little that. When actually she brings this bride to home, he introduces bigger person, Samuel, as he is more than my father.
Yeah.
Towards the source and I was following our Verghese Facebook page. I wrote it. Particularly in this sentence, you have packed so much passion, so much love like that. I was very impressed. Because he is not having father, he is more than my father. That's what he says.
Correct.
Then he has given a like to it, that particular word. Samuel he has given actually. I follow him on his page. And now he is in world tour actually. He recently has launched some other language.
Oh, okay.
Yes. You can follow it. Good speaker. Good. And now I 1, 2, 3, 4. You have chosen 5 characters actually memorable. I have chosen some more also.
Yeah, there are many more.
They do not have bigger role, but I consider them actually very effective and very good. For instance,
there are about 89 characters.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that, really.
No, it is more than that, ma'am.
I mean, some of them are really, really minor, but they
There
do
are,
make an appearance.
I will tell you, there are 64 characters in the book. I listed them out.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can say there are 64 characters.
my
I've
God.
got about
Ah,
89 of them.
89. Wow.
Yeah.
so many. And
Yeah.
actually, this begins in 1900 and 1977.
Yeah.
And more than 7 decades, more
Hmm.
than 700 pages. It
For
is a
3
magnum opus,
generations.
actually. Three
Yeah.
generations. So I was speaking of the character. Anurain, remember, ma'am?
Mhm.
Anurain,
Yes,
that
I
nurse,
remember.
matron of Longmere Hospital. She goes
Hmm.
away just when Digby joins. She comes and assists him. That
Hmm.
operation.
Hmm.
It is a good character.
Yeah.
And then the bookseller, remember Janikaram book,
Yeah.
Jana
Yeah.
bookseller.
Correct.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
a beautiful man. He knows more about everybody about books and classics and other things. He just reads out and recommends Britannica. What is that?
Yeah.
To this man. You purchase these volumes, US, LH, LH and other things. That character was also good. And
Yeah.
remember finally, the Swedish surgeon, Rune Oswis, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing correctly or not. It is also a memorable character.
Mhm.
Because as far DB is concerned, he is begins with that what is that leprosarium,
Yeah.
and that is created by this Bruno Ortwitz.
Hmm.
And there is a beautiful paragraph when there is a change in him. He
Hmm.
operates on the other things. He gets this angina pain.
Hmm.
Remember heart
Yes.
chest
Yes.
pain
He
and other
gets.
things.
Yeah.
Ah, and he realizes actually the importance when he comes across a leper. He was sitting on the bench. That
Hmm.
beautiful paragraph actually.
Correct.
I will just very well written. It is in chapter 24, a change of heart like that.
Mhm.
Paragraph 3 after dot Runa Orpheus. Very big paragraph. I don't wish because we're already running short of time actually. That
Yeah.
paragraph
Yes.
wonderful because that brings change in him from being a
Hmm.
normal doctor to
Yes.
leave that comfortable position, comfortable post and other things. Set up actually where there is nothing a leprosy. There will be nothing. Few stones are there, few lepers are there. There he comes and builds up the
Correct.
process. So I liked that character very much actually.
Yeah.
He
It's.
is from Swedish culture. Then another one, if you remember, Uma Ramaswamy.
Hmm.
He is
Uma,
Mariamma's pathology teacher and a leprosy researcher.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Correct. Correct.
Wonderful.
Who hires Mariamma?
Yes, she
Yeah.
analyzes Mariamma, and it is also very because at the she gives lot of assistance to Mariamma.
Hmm.
They keep in touch.
Correct.
I liked this character also. Major characters naturally
Yeah. There are so many. So many. Frankly.
that is the thing.
True.
And Lenin, as far as Naxalism is concerned,
Hmm. Correct.
so
So
many.
this was like a review which in Washington Post, which was just mentioned about the, how he's written. So it was just this sentence. I thought I'll add it here for about when we talk about memorable characters. So Verghese's compassion for his ensemble, which subtly multiplies, infuses every page. So does his ability to inhabit a carousel of sensibilities, including those of myriad women with penetrating intensity and empathy. I think
Exactly.
that is why I feel most of the characters are still in our mind. No?
Yes,
Yeah.
there is so
So
much passion.
yeah. I was going to ask this question. So if you're asked to name only one character as your most favorite one, who would it be and why?
For me, it
I
is
think
Digby, without question.
for me it is, I
Because
think, always Big Amachi.
yes,
But naturally, by virtue
Yeah.
of her position from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Because
No,
Digby has come
especially for
from,
me, what stood out in her was when she cares so much about Elsie. And then towards the end, we come to realize that she knew that the grandchild is actually not her
not her
grandchild.
yeah.
But
born of her son. Very correct.
yeah, but how she didn't even, bat an eyelid, or nowhere could we realize, she cared for Elsie really like her own child, and she looked after the child also in the very same way. And
But she did
Elsie
the
could,
same way even for Jojo, right? It was not, it was her stepson, but look at the way she was so attached and so much she cared. And when he
yeah,
died, so how much
yes,
she cried and she was so
she,
upset.
that
So
one
Exactly.
sentence, Meenal, do you remember? She says, when the child cries, she thinks maybe my child could have died instead of this
yeah,
kid.
instead of Jojo, yes.
Yeah, that was so touching. And also one more place, that was one thing which was in my mind. Why did she write that? And exactly that, uh, like I think more you wouldn't have probably guessed that Digby was the father. But two things which made me feel that was before it was revealed in the story was one was the Digby's and Elsie's, very very a little romanticized relationship towards the end where finally Elsie leaves that place, and Digby tells her bye. Though the age difference was too much, but you will see a glimpse of that attachment between them over there as when Elsie was a child. And the
Mm,
second place is when she's born, Mariama is born.
mm.
That is the only place where a character is described as being fair. And they
Yeah,
say this is a white child or a fair child or something
yeah,
she
yeah,
mentions when the baby is born. And I
yeah,
was like, why is this is the only place where this is mentioned in the entire book?
yeah.
And kind of shows us, that I think that was a little bit of premonition which the author wanted to give us of who she would actually finally be. I think it was very subtly and very beautifully done.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Another thing which really, really upset me, disturbed me was the way Celeste dies.
Yeah, that was really very
Very, very sad.
correct. Yeah. And when he loses his hand also, I felt like, what is he
Yes,
going to do with his life? His whole
yeah,
life was this. And
yes.
yeah,
But
I
that
did
whole
feel.
fabric, clinging
Mm,
on to her body and then that catching fire, that
yeah.
tablecloth or whatever, and then she burns to death.
Mm,
That was sad.
very, very sad. Yeah. Um, so again, when it comes to the literary prowess, which we've already seen, in fact, so Verghese's technical strengths are consistent and versatile. Crisp, taut pacing, sensuous descriptions that can fan out into rhapsody. Madras's evening breeze carries scents of orchids and salt, an airborne opiate that finally lets one forget the brutal heat of the day. A break from the riotous sense assault of Madras itself. Odors of cured leather, cotton, dried fish, incense, and salt water. The top notes of the antique scent of this ancient civilization. Verghese writes sex scenes with striking tenderness, as well as stunning accounts of birth and death struggles. Graphic surgeries, mouth-watering food, and keen depictions of class and caste divisions in Glasgow and India. I think in one paragraph, the
They
Washington Post
summed up
reviewer has summed up the entire, Verghese's
the entire book.
prowess. Exactly, entire book, in fact. Um, so some more things about the book is that the vivid imagery, obviously, and also the vast scope of the book. It covers most of the 20th century in India, in the form of a compassionate family saga. You get an account of medicine, politics, art, women's rights, colonialism, and so much is covered in the book, in fact. And the book's language is striking, even in the graphic descriptions of medical procedures and stuff. So it's a historical fiction novel, but it can also be considered as a political novel. It could also be considered as a reflective novel, it felt very personal also. It felt like it was a story of his own story, which he was telling, that kind of a personal effect we could feel with all the characters. So these are some of the quotes which I have from the book.
I
Please
have,
feel free to add your own also if you want to. You can even put it in the comments.
Madam, just a previous slide.
Yeah, please.
I want to add one point here actually.
Sure.
This book doesn't speak much of freedom movement, as in the
Mm,
case of Midnight Children. Why
correct.
is it because Kerala was not that affected by this freedom movement, or other did not consider it relevant to the story? That was the question I had. He should have covered little more. Were there no what I call fighters in Kerala at that moment seeking freedom from the rule of Britishers?
The
Why
only
was it
thing which
ignored?
I felt, to
Yeah.
answer your question was that the place where they stay in is shown as something which is a slightly removed and away from the center part of Kerala. I'm not sure if that's right or not, but of course, it's an imaginary place. There's no place like that. In fact, that was one of the one of the comments in most of the reviews, that they have given a map in the front of the book, and none of the places shown in the map are actually there anywhere in the story, or any of the places in the story are not there on that map. Okay,
There is a
so
map.
I
There
have
is a map.
something to add to it. This is a discussion I had with my family from Kerala, that I asked them ki how much the British rule and the freedom movement affected them, and they said to me not much, especially to the people who were living in the village area. There was not much of resistance, and there was not much of that passion also that we need Britishers out, because Kerala and Goa and places like that, they have been ports. They have benefited a lot from the trade. They were not much influenced, or they didn't have to change too much of their ways, and they were not facing the hardships that the North Indian or the major part of the country was facing under the British rule, because like they were quite okay with the British people, and they were getting the education and stuff like that. There was not much resistance. There was not much change. There was not much that they had to change about their culture or religion, like life. So there was not much resistance. This is something that is not discussed. Like I said, I had read and reviewed this book about Goa also. The same story happens, but is a different culture because it was under the Portuguese rule. But then there are certain places like that even in West Bengal, they say there was not much resistance towards the Britishers, because the West Bengal people were much cordial with the Britishers. It's only towards the later part of the, like, closer to independence, that flare started there also. So if it was a village setting in this, like in this novel, yes, people were not affected.
Yeah. And it's also a little cut off village, I felt. That's also something which I thought.
Yeah, fair enough.
Hmm. So these are some quotes from the book. So life comes from God, and life is precious precisely because it is brief. God's gift is time. However much or however little one has of it, it comes from Him. To see the miraculous in the ordinary is a more precious gift than prophecy. We don't have children to fulfill our dreams. Children allow us to let go of the dreams we were never meant to fulfill. A crying child is a breathing child.
Yes.
Roses would be annoying weeds if the blooms never withered and died. Beauty resides in the knowledge that it doesn't last. Philippos quotes Gandhi. So there are people in the world so hungry that God cannot appear to them except in the form of food. Well, Koshi sir may not believe in God, but it's a good thing that God believes in that old man. Why else did he send him into your life? This is the tutor, the Koshi sir, Philippos' tutor, who introduces him to reading. Amachi, when I come to the end of a book and I look up, just 4 days have passed. But in that time, I've lived through 3 generations and learned more about the world and about myself than I do during a year in school. I think this is probably true for this book. Our experience of reading this book.
More about the world and about myself than I do. Exactly.
Yeah. Child, the past is past, and furthermore, it's different every time I remember it. The minutes we spend watching the waves don't count against our lifespans. Even before his brain digests these sights, his body, skin, nerve endings, lungs, heart recognizes the geography of his birth. He never understood how much it mattered. Every bit of this lush landscape is his. Its every atom contains him. So, so this is something which I felt. I included this because this is something I felt when I returned to Bombay after being in Singapore. And not that this has any lush landscape except concrete and buildings, but still. So fiction is the great lie that tells the truth about how the world lives. Faith is to know the pattern is there, even though none is visible.
Visible.
Yeah. In my day, Mole, a girl couldn't dream like that. But you, my namesake, you can be a doctor or lawyer
Yes.
or journalist. Anything you imagine. So we lit that lamp to light your path.
Path. Yes. Sigama.
Yeah. Every tree had its own personality. Their sense of time is different. We think they mute, but it's just that it takes them days to complete a word. You know, Mariamma, in the jungle, I understood my failing, my human limitation. It is to be consumed by one fixed idea, then another, and another. This is Lenin telling to her,
Lenin, yes.
Yeah. So, like walking the straight line, wanting to be a priest, then an Naxalite. But in nature, one fixed idea is unnatural, or rather, the one idea, the only idea, is life itself, just being,
Yes.
living.
He is frustrated.
Yeah. So forgive me, she says now. For what? For everything. Sometimes we can wound each other in ways we don't intend. So this is also, I thought it was a premonition for the
Yeah.
future. Yeah. So for 28 years of baby Mole's life, the sun has never failed to come up. Yet every morning she's ecstatic at its return. To see the miraculous in the ordinary is more precious gift than prophecy. I had actually included only the last line before. I didn't realize
Yes,
I've
yes.
given it to it again.
Correct.
But God's time isn't the same as hers. God's calendar isn't the one hanging in her kitchen. To everything, there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. It's pointless chastising herself for not rescuing her mother sooner. Happened is happened, she thinks. The past is unreliable and only the future is certain. And she must look to it with faith that the pattern will be revealed. This is when she feels guilty, that she
Yeah,
didn't bring
exactly.
her mother sooner.
Very.
Yeah. So
May I add some more, madam?
please do. Actually, there were so many more. I tried to
was
stop
written
myself.
one thing I
There are
remembered.
so many
Yes.
actually. I have put some.
The saddest day of a life is the day of a wedding. The
Yeah.
opening line of the book.
That I have put. That I have put, madam.
Oh.
I have put. Yes. First one is from Rabindranath Tagore,
Oh.
because the author himself uses it actually as a quote. First page. And a river went out, not hammer strokes, but dance of the water. Sings the pebbles into perfection, Rabindranath Tagore.
Mhm.
With that, he begins the book actually. Yes, that I thought of adding because it is from a Nobel laureate. It's there. Yes.
Yes.
And then the saddest day, madam has just referred to this quote. The saddest day of a girl's life is the day of her wedding. After that, God willing, it both gets better. Fact. Third one, a daughter has an open door into a father's heart. Actually, these quotes are understood by a father who has got a daughter. I have one. I have a daughter and a son. And then, fourth one, after a while, her grandmother turns to her, Mariamma, sometimes when you are most afraid, when you feel most helpless, that is when God is pointing out a path for you. Is another quote. There are many. I have filtered them out. There are many. It's a very good. There are several quotations.
There are several. In fact, yeah.
But it just becomes how many you can put actually.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
True.
And one thing I would like, if there is any explanation, chapter 14 and chapter 16 are titled as The Art of the Craft and the Craft of the Art, if you have noticed. I wanted some light to be thrown onto that. Any thoughts on that?
What is there in, I'm sorry, Meenal, I left this book in the outside. What is
Yeah.
there in the 14th chapter and what is there in the...
Yeah, even I tried.
There's a V.V. Ramachandran, madam. The General Hospital.
Yeah.
He who says, I'm so behind that yesterday catches up with tomorrow. He is a doctor, Ravichandra, about him. And he
Oh, okay.
also says God is in the small things because he guides this man. He gets confused about the surgery, na? This honorum, you see, matron takes or dignity to that is the chapter 14.
So that is called as the craft of the art, is it?
Yeah, the art of the craft.
Art of the craft.
Art of the craft. Because both are surgeons. That is what perhaps it was selected about. We may read again.
Mm.
Magnification, big that hernia operation surgery. Matron, he takes honoring, who dislikes the British rule. And particularly this honoring dislikes British rule and British Empire.
Mm.
That madam was saying that big goiter, that character was Audu Nike, that one. Goiter, big and surgeon, she will not be able to do
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one.
That's the craft of the art.
Exactly. That after that. Those are the things. That means he is a better surgeon, that's what I feel, than Digby. He gave.
The I thought, after reading the book, one thing which I just wanted to ask all of you also, if you are okay with, we should do this, was that I really enjoyed the read so much. And I know I usually stick to classics, and sometimes we do pick up modern classics also. But I just thought the classics definition hereafter, we can kind of just widen it a bit and include some good, prize winning literary fiction too as a part of what we are, reading in the
Yes.
future.
I endorse. I'm also already ready with the book actually.
Oh, great. So
And
we've still not had yeah, please.
Yes. The time is less.
Okay,
That means 15 days we have taken away for this book.
correct.
And we have covered one Booker Prize book, if you remember, Paul Lynn's book, The Prophet Song.
Yes, Prophet Song, correct.
We have covered it. So what I suggest is let us go for the current book, Booker Prize, Orbital.
Orbital is the winner, no?
Samantha Harvey. It is a small book.
Okay.
And I think as per our plan, 15 days we can complete in the first week of December. We can have our this. Because we have covered one. And that we covered Paul Lynn's book before actually he was awarded Booker Prize.
Yeah, that was, we
And
read it
this
just
we are
before
reading, discussing after she has been awarded Booker Prize.
Okay.
Orbital is also a good book. It is
I also have a suggestion.
Yes,
Please tell me.
Han Kang's The Vegetarian. She won the Nobel Prize for Literature.
Correct. That's
We
been
can-
a book which I've been wanting to read for a long time. Yeah. So what I'll do is, let me put up these two books alone this time. Let's just put it to vote, and we'll pick up whichever one. And I think both of them are not very long reads. So
No,
maybe
What about
I
the
have
side
read
of
the
the book Vegetarian?
Yeah, The
Side of the
Vegetarian
book?
I've read.
yeah,
What is it? Is it size?
I think it's around 150 pages or so.
Yeah, it's a
Then it's
small
okay.
book.
Yeah.
Then it's okay. This is also
Yeah.
around 170 pages. Then it's, I think, both are equally deserving.
Okay. So Orbital is also about 150 pages, is it?
A roughly small book, that one.
Small book. So let me just put up, what we can do is we'll choose one. We'll have, do you think December first week is too close, or is it okay? We have 15 days. Huh?
I
It will be okay.
No, it's okay. I'm just saying too close because I work in a school and
Yeah.
so rigorous and so demanding. I hardly get time to read, and I have to.
Correct.
But otherwise, it's okay.
So what about like December 6th, if we have our discussion? 3 weeks of time is there, I think. 1, 2, and 3 weeks. 3 weeks is okay, if considering it's a little shorter read.
It's shorter read.
Yeah. But the next book, I have time. I may not be available on 27th. I will have time only after that. So we can have it on 3rd, then maybe we can take a bigger read.
Bigger, natural. Next one should be a bigger read again.
Yeah, we can do that.
We will,
or then why,
alternate.
instead of, like Meenal feeling the pressure, then let us keep it, we'll give it a 1 month time itself and we'll do it. It's okay.
No, Archana, no, that's fine. Even if I can't read, I'll join and listen to all what you all have to share. So that's okay.
We'll keep it one
You-
more
you
week. It's
decide.
okay, Meenal. We'll have it
Okay, no
around the
problem.
13th, and December, let's take another bigger read, and then we'll normal read, and then we'll have it in January then. So that'll be proper 4 weeks time itself. I know it's sometimes, there's so many other things also which you will be doing, and it must be
Yes,
exam
yes.
time also in school, right?
Yeah, it's very hectic
Very
actually.
hectic.
From January, March till March, it'll be.
Okay.
We have all
Hectic.
exams down for now. Very hectic.
Yeah.
It's packed.
So we'll do that then. We'll just decide. I'll just put up these two for vote. We'll give it a day's time, and then we'll choose one and we'll read it. Okay.
Please.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Please.
Um,
Uh,
Thank you, madam.